to start again because the recording didn't take. So I'm going to start again. What is Rosh Hashanah? Rosh Hashanah is referred to in the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, page Tez Zayin, as follows. Hashem says, V'imru lefanai b'Rosh Hashanah, say before me in Rosh Hashanah, Malchios Zichronos v'Shofros, say before me verses of kingship, of remembrances, and of Shofar. Why? Malchios K'dei shetalnichuni aleichem, say verses of kingship, so that you shall become king, as you shall place Hashem's kingship over us. Zichronos, K'dei sheyale zichronechem lefanei letova, remembrances, verses of remembering the good that Klal Yisrael did before Hashem, so that He will remember us for positivity. And how do we achieve this kingship of God and Him remembering us letova? Ubameh, says the Gemara, bashofar, with the shofar. The sound of the shofar is to impact upon us that God is king and that He remember the Akedah. This sound of the shofar, Ubameh bashofar, is to fulfill the two obligations of kingship and remembrances. So when we blow the shofar, it is to impact upon us God's kingship and our good deeds. The problem is, the Welt asks this question. Makshim ha'olam. The Jewish world, the commentators ask the following question. On every Rosh Chodesh, on every new month, we have a new slate, a Rosh Chodesh, a new beginning. And right before Rosh Chodesh, we have the day before Rosh Chodesh, which is Yom Kippur Katan, a mini Yom Kippur, what we do, Al Chay. Why? The day before Rosh Chodesh, the new month, we do tshuva, we clean the slate, we repair ourselves, so that on Rosh Chodesh itself, we renew ourselves and become new people. Why then, asks the world, the Welt asks, on Rosh Hashanah, when we blow the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, why doesn't Yom Kippur come before Rosh Hashanah? Why don't we have Yom Kippur Gadol, the big Yom Kippur, the real Yom Kippur, which happens 10 days after Rosh Hashanah? Shouldn't that be the day before Rosh Hashanah? Shouldn't we do tshuva the day before Rosh Hashanah and then have a new year? We've cleansed ourselves. We have a tabula rasa, a clean slate. And Rosh Hashanah should begin the new me, the new self, the new mishpacha, the new avoda. Why don't we follow the same pattern that all the other Rosh Chodeshim, all the other Rosh Chodeshes follow, of having a Yom Kippur Katan tshuva the day before, and then on Rosh Chodesh we have a renewal? Says Rav Moshe Karlbach, one of my Rebbeim, says one of my Rebbeim in Yerushalayim, Rav Moshe Karlbach, the answer is as follows. If we were to begin Rosh Hashanah with thoughts and remembrances of the pain of our tshuva the day before Rosh Hashanah, we would still be remembering the old self and the old echoes of our mistakes. And when we come to Rosh Hashanah, we will be laden, brought down, burdened by the thoughts and the sounds and the remembrances of the Al-Chait. And we would not be truly renewed on Rosh Hashanah. Therefore, says Rav Moshe Karlbach, on Rosh Hashanah, we don't do tshuva. On Rosh Hashanah, we blow the shofar and we declare Hashem as king. And we clear away the blocks of my declaring Hashem as king. the blocks of the self-doubt, the gimgum, the stuttering, the stutter steps, the mistakes that we did. We clear away the negative thinking. So that then we can reinstate, redeclare, redo it ourselves with the second Kia. And confirm that indeed I do want to be that new person that I declared in the first Kia. The first Kia is the vision, the thinking big, how great I can be, how good a husband I can be, how good a wife I can be. I have an image in my mind of the greatness of the Tkiya. Look how great I am. I'm offering you to Hashem. Hashem, I'm offering myself to you as a new person, a new vision, a new image. See, I'm going to crown you as king, and I'm going to be a new servant. You see here, Hashem. Yeah, but I have negative thoughts about myself, low self-esteem. I don't think I can do it. This is not the same thing as tshuva. I'm not doing tshuva when I blow shofar in tshuva. I'm not doing tshuva. I am just clearing away the negativity that blocks me from being a tkiya. And I do this. This is called yalala in the Gemara. A cry of pain of, yeah, but I can't. That's not tshuva. That's not I sin. That's just I can't be that great person. That's not tshuva. And then I restore myself and say, yes, I can. I confirm, I reaffirm and say, yes, I can be that great mother that I want to be. I envision myself, I imagine myself as that straight line, that direct connector to Hashem. How great a mother and attentive mother I can be. How great an attentive father and loving father I could be. How attentive a husband I could be. How supportive and loving a wife I could be. That's the image of self that the Tekiya represents. The Shvarim Trua takes away the negativity and says, I don't think I can. And then I reaffirm and say, yes, I can. Like the little engine that could. Said, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. And Kalev ben Yefuna said, Yachol nuchala. We surely can. We surely can conquer this land. That positivity is what the shofar represents. And that's why on Rosh Hashanah, we have to begin not with tshuva, not with the day before being Yom Kippur, but envision the new self to destroy any kind of negativity or thoughts of self-doubt that I might have if I had Yom Kippur before Rosh Hashanah, and start totally free, totally fresh, totally reimagined as a person who thinks big about how good I can be. And the Alter Shlabaka tells us that when we were created the Tzelem Elokim, in the image of God, it means that we can be in the image of God. We can be great like Adam HaRishon before the Chet, before his sin. Don't we declare God as king over ourselves every single day, twice a day in the Shema? Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, Shachris and Mariv. Are we already declaring God as king over us? The declaration of Emunah and faith, Shema Yisrael. What's the difference between Shofar and Shema? Shema, I declare God as king every single morning, every single night. Says my Rebbe, Rav Moshe Shapira Zatzal, during the Shema, I place myself under the Ol Malchut Shamayim. I place myself under the jurisdiction of Hashem. I accept upon myself Ol Malchut Shamayim. Shema Yisrael is Kabbalas Ol, receiving upon myself the will of Hashem. Rosh Hashanah is not putting myself under Hashem, under Hashem's kingdom, under Hashem's will. It's placing Hashem's crown above me and aspiring to greatness. That's the difference. On every single day, Shema Yisrael, I accept upon myself the yoke, the burden, the Ol Malchut Shamayim, which guides me toward self-fulfillment and service of Hashem. When on Rosh Hashanah once a year, I take Hashem and I place him above me. During the year, I place myself under Hashem. On Rosh Hashanah, I place Hashem above me, and I aspire to the greatness of what a servant of God is. I reimagine myself. So Rosh Hashanah is a time to recreate myself, to reimagine myself. And that's the call of the shofar. That's the voice of the shofar. When Hashem created Adam Arishon, he created Adam, he said, Vayipach ba'apav nishmas chaim, Hashem blew into Adam a living spirit, says the Zohar and the Shemi Shmuel, says the Shemi Shmuel and the Zohar, when Hashem blew into Adam a living spirit, when Hashem Vayipach be'apav nishmas chaim, Hashem blew from himself. Man de nafach midile nafach. He blew a neshama from the neshama of neshamos, the soul of souls, Hashem, blew from himself and imbued a dimension of the neshama of Hashem into man, as the Baal HaTanya says, chelek eloka mimal, a dimension of God from above was blown into us. And the Tanya Baal HaTanya says, what does that mean? He says, chelek eloka mimal mamish. His explanation is that it's real, mamish, that it's real, mamash. It is a real dimension of God that is blown into us. And when we breathe in, you are breathing in a echo of that time when Hashem blew into us, into you, into Adam Arishon, that living spirit from Hashem himself. Says the Shemi Shmuel and the Zohar, when Hashem blew into Adam, that living spirit, that dimension of himself, the sound that came out of the world was the sound of the shofar. The sound of the shofar is the sound of Hashem blowing into Adam a living spirit. This is the sound of Adam being created. Listen. So when we're standing on Rosh Hashanah before Hashem, and we hear him perform the one mitzvah of Rosh Hashanah, of course tefillah is a mitzvah. Machlekes the Rambam and the Ramban as to whether or not it's doraisa or derabanan. But the only mitzvah doraisa that we do on Rosh Hashanah is this, Kiyah Shofar. Why? Because it represents us being recreated. And if you listen carefully, and that's why when we make the shofar, we make the bracha on shofar. The bracha is Asher Kiddeshanu b'mitzvosav. You commanded us with your commandments. Lishmawa kol shofar. The bracha that we make is to hear what? To hear ourselves being recreated. So when you hear the shofar on Rosh Hashanah and you imbibe, you breathe in the breath of Hashem. Everyone breathe in. The breath you just took and you are taking now is nothing less than Hashem breathing into you. In the sense of artificial respiration, where a lifeguard breathes into the victim and breathes in the kiss of life and gives him breath to revive him. From his lungs go into the victim, and hopefully the victim will come alive and start breathing on his own. He takes the air, the breath of the lifeguard, and receives it, and that awakens the lung tissue, which allows him to breathe again and clears away the blockages. He clears away the blockages first and then breathes into him. So too, every breath we take is Hashem breathing into us a living spirit. And the ultimate, the quintessential moment when we remind ourselves every single year that Hashem is breathing into us the life force, the breath of life, is this sound. So when you're standing up before Hashem on Rosh Hashanah and you listen to the shofar, you say, Hashem, I want to be a new person, and here's what I'm going to be. I'm going to be a person who's going to be a better listener, an active listener, and I'm going to listen to my husband and my wife and my children, and I'm going to be there and be present, be conscious for them. That's my vision. I want to share that with you and recognize the breath you're going to give into me right now is going to be the breath that I'm going to use to listen. Here's what we're going to do, Hashem. That's my vision of the new listening self, the active listener. My mind, back of my mind says, you can't do that. You don't know how to do that. But my soul answers and says, I'm determined. I'm going to do that. Every time the shofar blows, envision in your mind a new dimension of self. The first set of tkiyas, the second set, third set, 3 sets at the beginning. Choose a dimension of self with which you want to recreate yourself as a better listener, a better giver, a more patient person, a more calm person. And I'm going to present it to Hashem as my vision for self. I'm going to take away any blocks that I have or negativity, negative thinking about that I can't do it. And I'm going to reaffirm my ability and my will and my determination to do it with the second tkiyah. And we go through the tkiyas, first set, second set, third set, and then through Musaf, 3 sets of Malchios, Zichronos, Shofros. That's 6 sets. And then 4 more sets at the end of the davening, end of Musaf, right before Tiskabel, Kaddish Tiskabel. There are 10 sets of 3. And those sets are opportunities. 10 opportunities to recreate ourselves in the image of Hashem with this vision of the shofar, of the malchus, of what kind of servant I can declare Hashem over me, as I'm going to be the servant and I'm going to make him king over me by being a new person, a new listener, a new giver, a new inspired person, a new person who holds his tongue in any dimension of myself that I want to. And therefore, that's not Shuvah, that's just vision. Then comes 10 days later, Yom Kippur, and I reflect back on the year beforehand, and I say, oh yeah, whew, I have a vision of the past 10 days of how I could be. Did I do that? Did I do that? No, I didn't pay attention. I was on my phone when my husband was talking to me. I was saying, yeah, Like this happened to me. When I was in yeshiva, Rav Naftali Kaplan Shlita, my Rebbe, when I asked him a question, he looked at me like this. Oh, he listened to my question. It was a long question. Oh, good question. And then at the end of the question, he goes, oh, no, not a good question. When he was looking at me, I was wondering, who was he looking at? He looked at me with penetrating eyes, total attention. He's a giant, a big Talmud Chacham, the father of Nissim Kaplan, Rav Naftali Kaplan, big Talmud Chacham, the Mashgiach in Kol Torah, in Yerushalayim Beit Vagan. And he was listening to me, a Kollel student, asking a question. Who am I that he should look at me? When he looked at me, I went, Rabbi, I looked at the person behind me. Are you looking at him? You're not looking at me, because you can't be looking at me, because who am I that I'm asking a question? You just say, yeah, what do you want? He looked at me with such attention, such attentiveness, such directness, as if my question counted. My question mattered. And I was so shocked because look behind me. I guess you're talking to me because no one behind me. And that week I came home. I was learning in Kollel. We had one child at the time. who now lives in Johannesburg. Her husband's learning for Dayanos in the Johannesburg Kollel. They've been learning in Kollel for 12 years. This is the 13th year in Kollel. Baruch Hashem. And I was talking to my wife she was talking to me about Rivka and about kids and about guests. And I was looking outside the Gemara like this. Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, okay. So she asked me, she said, Yisroel, when you learn with your Rebbe and talk to your Rebbe, do you look in a sefer when he's talking to you? I said, in fact, no. In fact, when I talk to my Rebbe, he looks directly at me. And he connects with me, and he listens to me, and he gives me attention. So she said to me, as she took my sefer from my hand, and she closed it gently, and she said, so your Rebbe, who's this big, and you have said to me, Yisroel, that you're this big, would teach you, would reach you and connect with you with such respect and such intent and such kavanah to connect with you. Me and you are 50-50, we're equals. Don't you think kal v'chomer that you should put down your sefer, even though it's a Gemara, and look at me and talk to me? That's a bomb kasha. That's called a bomb kasha. That blew me out of the water. I had no answer to that question. And since then, I resolved that I was going to do that. I was going to listen with active listening and intent. At that moment was my shofar moment, and I did this to myself. But then during the year, life gets in the way, and I get busy, and I have to learn, and I have to teach, and I have to see clients, and I'm very busy. And she talks to me, and I go, yeah. I can't pay attention. I'm too ADD. I can't do that. And my soul says back to me, 1 second. Yes, you can. Break off your negativity, self-doubt. You can do it. I go, I can? Yeah, you know what? I remember that time where she said to me, you better listen carefully because your Rebbe listens to you, so you should listen to me. And I went, yes, I can. And I resolved. It's an up and down struggle all year long of the Tekiah, the Shvarim Trua, and the Tekiah. All lifelong, all week long, all year long, I'm struggling between the Tekiah self, the imagined self, the envisioned self, the great self that I could be, and the old self, which is human and has an ego and says, no, I can't. When Hashem blew into Adam, a living spirit, that was the recreation of Yom Haras Olam. That's known as the day of the creation of the world. It wasn't the actual day of the creation of the world where Hashem created Adam. We are not celebrating 5,782 years in 4 days from now of the creation of the world. We are not celebrating Rosh Hashanah of the creation of the world. We are celebrating the 6th day of the Bria, when man was created. We're celebrating the 6th day of creation. Yom Haras Olam. Today is the creation of the world. Why? Because man was created on the 6th day, and Rosh Hashanah is the 6th day of creation. Rosh Hashanah was really the creation of the world, happened on the 25th day of Elul. And the 6th day of creation was Rosh Hashanah, when man was created. That's considered to be the birthday of the world, but it's not the actual birthday of the world. It's the crowning moment of the world when man was created. That is Rosh Hashanah. That is what we're celebrating. An hour afterwards, he sinned with the tree, the esrog that he ate with Chava. It wasn't an apple, it was an esrog, says the Gemara. Or it was a grape, or it was a piece of wheat, or it was a fig, but it wasn't an apple. We don't judge our lives by a 16th century Italian Renaissance painter who painted Adam and Eve with an apple. We go to the Gemara. The Gemara says most likely it was an esrog, the most beautiful fruit. At that moment when he was created, that was the moment of Breshis bara Elokim es hashamayim es haaretz. That was the moment when Hashem created Adam. That was the creation moment. That was the first pasuk of the Torah. Breshis bara Elokim es hashamayim es haaretz. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Says Rashi, Breshis bifil reshis, for the beginning ones. Who is the beginning ones? Klal Yisrael. Who is the beginning of that? Adam Arishon. Therefore, the creation of the world, which means the creation of man on the sixth day of the Bria, was an enactment of the first pasuk of the Torah. Breshis bara Elokim. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. That was a creation moment. That's the first pasuk of the Torah. When man made his mistake and ate from the esrog with Chava, he went down to the second pasuk of the Torah. The aretz haisat sohu vavahu, the choshech al pnei samon, ruach elokim merach chefes al pnei hamayim. When he sinned with the esrog, he left the first pasuk of Breshis bara Elokim, the image that he could become as a new creation, a servant of Hashem, and he went down to the second pasuk, which is, and the world is astonishingly empty. Sohu vavo bechoshech, and darkness al pnei samon, on the face of the deep. That was his second pasuk. That was his sin. When he did tshuva, was banished from the garden, he went back to the first pasuk. Breshis bara Elokim es hashamayim haaretz. When Hashem created Cain and Hevel, the potential for the world, potential for greatness in the world, children, that was the moment of Breshis bara Elokim es hashamayim haaretz. In the beginning, God created heaven and earth. When Cain killed Hevel, the world descended to the second pasuk. Sohu vavohu, the choshech al pnei sahom. Null and void, astonishingly empty. The choshech and darkness in the face of the deep when Cain killed Hevel. Did the world end then? When Shes was born, Adam and Chava did not end the world, but they continued to have a child. And they had Shes. And from Shes says the Gemara, Hushta Sa'ulam, the world was reestablished. That was a return to the first pasuk of the Torah. Breshis bara Elokim es hashamayim es haaretz. Noach was Breshis bara Elokim. In the beginning, God created heaven and earth, a tzaddik, a righteous man. The generation of the Mabul, the flood, was back to Sohu vavohu bechoshech al pnei sahom, darkness and astonishingly empty on the face of the deep. When Noach came back out of the teva and had the olive leaf in the mouth of the Yonah of the dove, the world was restored to Breshis bara Elokim es hashamayim haaretz. Generations of Enosh, of idol worship, 10 generations from Noach to Avraham, the world returned to choshech al pnei sahom, sohu vavohu bechoshech, darkness on the face of the deep. Avraham was born, and there was a moment of Breshis bara Elokim es hashamayim haaretz. Yishmael was born, the world was restored to sohu vavohu bechoshech al pnei sahom. Yitzchak was born, and the world returned to Breshis bara Elokim. Yaakov and Esau, when Esau was born first, the world returned to sohu vavohu bechoshech al pnei sahom. When Yaakov Avinu was born, the world returned to Breshis bara Elokim es hashamayim haaretz. When the Jewish people went down to Egypt because of the sin of selling Yosef, the world returned to sohu vavohu bechoshech al pnei sahom. When Moshe Rabbeinu took the Jewish people out of Egypt, the world returned to Breshis bara Elokim es hashamayim haaretz. In the beginning, God created a new beginning. Breshis of Klal Yisrael. When we got the Torah on Mount Sinai, the world was Breshis bara Elokim. When we sinned with the golden calf, the world returned to sohu vavohu bechoshech al pnei sahom, darkness on the face of the deep. When we did tshuva, and we got the Torah on Yom Kippur, and Yom Kippur is a day of Matan Torah, when Moshe Rabbeinu went up the mountain for 40 days and another 40 days and brought the luchos down, the second luchos down, that was the Breshis bara Elokim es hashamayim haaretz. The world was restored to, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. That's why on Yom Kippur, says Rav Moshe, we kiss the Torah, we take out the Torah. What does the Torah have to do with Yom Kippur? Why do we take out the Torah as by Kol Nidre? It's a statement of, I am annulling my vows that I made between me and Hashem. What does that have to do with the Torah? Because I'm makabel the Torah. On Yom Kippur night, on Kol Nidre night, and the morning of Yom Kippur, I am makabel the second Torah that came down on Yom Kippur. And why is the day of Yom Kippur called the Day of Atonement? Because we are atoning for the sin of the golden calf that was forgiven on Yom Kippur. That's why Yom Kippur is a day of atonement of tshuva. That's why we kiss the Torah and we accept the Torah. Kissing the Torah means I accept the Torah. I re-accept the Torah. I was a person who was all year long so vavo v'choshach al pnei sahom, darkness on the face of the deep. But in Yom Kippur, I restore myself to Bereshis bara Elokim eset shamayim v'haaretz. The Medrash says then that when Moshe Rabbeinu was on Mount Sinai receiving the Torah, and he had in his hands two tfachim, two measures of space that he held the luchos, and Hashem held the other. Hashem Kiviyachol held the front part of the luchos, and in the middle between Hashem and Moshe Rabbeinu there were two tfachim, and Hashem was handing the luchos to Moshe Rabbeinu. Hashem saw the golden calf and wanted to pull the golden calf away from Moshe Rabbeinu. The Medrash says that's the wording of the Yad HaChazaka. Moshe Rabbeinu's Yad HaChazaka, his strong hand means, and that's the wording of Moshe ben Maimon. The Rambam calls his Mishnah Torah Yad HaChazaka, because Moshe Rabbeinu rested. He pulled the luchos out of Hashem's hand. Hashem said, no, Egel, golden calf. They're returning the world to Sov, Avo, V'choshech al pnei sahom. Moshe Rabbeinu says, no, the only way to get back to Bereshis bara Elokim is with this Torah. You told us that, Hashem. And Medrash says that Moshe Rabbeinu pulled and wrested the luchos out of the hands Kiviyachol of Hashem and said the Torah belongs here. And only with the Torah can we do tshuva. Only with the Torah can we come back to Bereshis bara Elokim eset shamayim v'haaretz. That is Elul. Elul is a process of preparing for taking the Torah back into our hands and saying, yes, I can. I can restore myself and my family to Bereshis bara Elokim eset shamayim v'haaretz. It is true that during the year, I have become complacent. I have become tired. I have become tired of COVID and masks. And I encourage everyone, in speaking to the doctors I speak to, I encourage everyone to wear masks on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. We don't know what's happening with the Delta variant. We are sending 5,000 unvaccinated children into schools. This started yesterday. My wife's a teacher at TA. 5,000 unvaccinated children. We don't know what's going to happen. Let's wait and see. But let's be careful. There are masks available, and even though there's no mask mandate, but the county schools and the city schools are all wearing masks, not the Jewish schools. Pikuach nefesh, our lives are on the line. Why shouldn't we be careful? I encourage, personally, my talmidim, my talmidos, my kehillah, to wear masks on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Let's do it for 1 month and be careful. Even though we have a second vaccine and a third vaccine. And I encourage you to get the third vaccine, which is available at Ner Tamid Clinic, the Bikur Cholim Clinic. It's available to get the third vaccine, to protect ourselves, to do our hishtadlus. We don't know what's happening with the variant. Doctors I spoke to said, let's wait and see. Let's wait this month and see whether or not the variant spreads and affects adults or not. But why take the chance? That's hishtadlus. But our job during Elul is hishtadlus, to pull back the luchos into our hands and say, I want the Torah, Hashem. And that's called tshuva. Tshuva means I want to reconnect. I want the Torah, and the only way I can reconnect is through following the Torah. During the year, we have become distanced from Hashem. We have become sometimes broken by challenges. These are the challenges. But we want the Torah. I am to my beloved as my beloved is to me means I want to come back to Breshis Bara Elokim as Hashemayim as Aretz. I want to come back to you created the heaven and the earth. And I want to be part of that plan. When the Gemara, the Mishnah says that we pass before Hashem, Kivnei Maron, referred to in Nisana Tokef, as we pass before Hashem like sheep, single file. Hashem is taking us in his hand and saying, what do you have to say? What is your Breshis Bara Elokim? You may have been distanced from me with sovavahu, consternation, difficulties, confusion, disconnect. But I take you in my hand. Din means Hashem loves us. Din does not mean something that we should be afraid of. We should be in awe of Din, not afraid of Din. I'm in awe that Hashem picks each of us up, single file, and says, Ziz, what do you want? What do you want to say about my world? How are you going to contribute to my world? That's Din. Din means Hashem cares. He wants to hear from us. He comes down every year and says, I want to judge. I want to know. I want to be part of your life. Do you want to be part of my life? Hashem picks us up. Our answer is the shofar. We blow the shofar. Hashem breathes the breath into us and we declare him as king. That's our answer. Our response, it's a dynamic relationship. Hashem takes us in his hand and says, what do you want? And I answer and I say, I want to be part of your tkiyah. I want to be part of your world. I want to make a contribution to your world. I want to count. Yes, I've had this. But I want this. I want to come back. I want to make a contribution. And I can make a contribution. Because Hashem believes in you. He breathed into you himself, which means, yes, you can. You have Hashem's strength within you. You have an neshama of Hashem within you. You have a tzelem Elokim, an image of God, a potential to achieve greatness. It's our job to actualize that. What the pasuk says in the Torah, when the pasuk says in Perek Aleph 26, Hashem says, "Na'aseh Adam b'tsalmenu kidmusinu." Let us make man in our image and in our form. Hashem says, "Let us make man in our image and in our form." But in pasuk 27, Hashem says, "Vayivra Hashem Elokim es Adam b'tsalmo b'tsalem Elokim bara oso zachar nekiva bara osam." When God created man, He created man only b'tsalem Elokim. He planned to make Hashem. Hashem planned to make man. Nas Adam b'tsalmenu kidmusinu, in our form and in our image. B'tsalmenu means our image. Kidmusinu, in our form. But when it came to actual creating us, the next pasuk says, "Vayivra Elokim es Adam b'tsalmo," in his image. B'tsalem Elokim bara oso, in the image of God He created him. Zachar u'nekiva bara osam, male and female He created them. Asks the Welt, what happened to the words Dmusenu? Hashem said He wanted to create us in His image and in His form. Hashem said He wanted to create us in His image and in His form, but He only created us in His image. Why? What happened to the form? Dmusenu, says the Alter Slobodka, means domelo, to be like God. The potential to be like God is tzelem Elokim. Tzelem means the image of God, the vision, the first tkiyah. But the second tkiyah is up to us. The first tkiyah is our image, is our dream, is our envisioning ourselves to be in the potential to be like God. The tzelem Elokim. Na'aseh Elokim, na'aseh Adam b'tsalmenu kidmusenu, in our image and in our form. But when God actually created us, He only created us in His image and not in His form. Why? Says the Alter Rebbe, because domelo, to be like him, that's up to us. That's our effort. That's ani ledodi v'dodi li. That's the Tkiya Shofar. That's our effort and our plan. So therefore, we have to be like God. Lis damos lekono, to walk in his ways. Mahu rachum af ata hayerachum. He is merciful, you should be merciful. Mahu kadosh af ata hayekodosh. He is holy, you should be holy. The Gemara in Shabbos, page 133b, says, Zeh keli ve'anvehu, this is my God, and I will glorify him. I will beautify God. How do you beautify God? The word ve'anvehu, beautify, says Rashi, is made up of two words, ani v'hu. Anvehu, glorify him. How? Ani v'hu, being like God. By being compassionate like God, giving like God, patient like God. And that's why we say during Slichos, before Rosh Hashanah, and after Rosh Hashanah until Yom Kippur, and on Yom Kippur at Kol Nidrei night, and at Ne'ilah, non-stop, about 20 times or more, we say Hashem, Hashem, Kerachum v'chanun, Erech Apayim, Rav Chesed v'yemes, Notzer Chesed la'alafim, No Seyavon v'afesha v'chata v'na'akei. These are the 13 attributes of Hashem. And Hashem blew from himself into each of us one or two of those midos. Which one are you? Are you Hashem, Hashem? Is that your strongest attribute? That God blew into you? Is it consistency, Hashem, Hashem? Is it Kale, leadership? Is it Rachum, compassion? Chanun, empathy and sensitivity? Erech Apayim, patience, laid back, relaxed? Rav Chesed, is it giving? Emes, honesty and integrity? No say avon v'afesha v'chata, forgiving? V'nakei, resilience. I'll say them again. Which one is you? Which one do you identify with as your strongest attribute that God blew into you? That's when Hashem blew into you the Tkiya. He blew into you an image of God, a potential, and we struggle with it in the second part of our lives, the second week, during the week. Can I actualize that part of me? You gave me Hashem, Hashem, consistency, perseverance. You gave me Kale, leadership. You gave me Rachamim, Rachum, compassion. Chanun, nurturing and sensitivity and empathy. Erech Apayim, patience. Sometimes I'm not so patient. Sometimes I'm this. Not so patient. Rav Chesed, giving. Sometimes I'm not so giving. MS, honesty, that's this. Sometimes I'm not so honest. Notzer Chesed, creativity, creative with ideas, with art, music, creative with family outings, creative with meals for my family, keep them happy and inspired. No siyavon v'vesha v'chata, forgiving, I'm forgiving. And sometimes I don't forgive. I hold on to resentments like this. I don't forgive. Vinakei, resilience. Sometimes I have no strength to be resilient. Sometimes I just want to give up and say, I can't. Hashem says, I gave you the potential. I gave you the Tselem Elokim, potential. It's your turn to demusenu, to make it like me, to actualize, to self-actualize, to say, I am determined, I am committed, I can be as great as I envisioned. Even though there have been moments when I have been so vavo v'choshech al pnei sahom, I have been dark and astonishingly empty, and dark and deeply hurt. I say to Hashem with my second tekiah, I can return to Bereshis Bara Elokim Es Hashemayim Haaretz. That's the second tekiah. May we all be zocha to lishmaya kol shofar, to hear the kol shofar, to experience the kol shofar, to make the kol shofar a personal, dynamic relationship with Hashem, to come closer to Hashem, to be children of Hashem, avinu, and servants of Hashem, malkeinu. Everyone should have a Shana Tova Muvoreches, a good Kibbutz Jur, with health, safety, protection, self-fulfillment, self-actualization. So we all bring back the glory of Hashem to this world. We can each of us contribute to Breshis Bara Elokim, Es HaShamayim Es Haaretz. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, and each of us can say, I want to make my unique contribution to this world, to the Olam Hazeh, so that I can make a contribution to arrive in the fullness of time at full consciousness when I arrive in the Olam Haba. Agutur, Ksiva Tova.
Ksiva Tova. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ksiva Tova.
A good Kibbutz year to everybody.
Yeah.